Hello everyone, this is Duke Slayer from the brand New You Show. Today, I'm excited. I haven't spent that much time getting to know this guy, but just from his vibe, what people have told me, the people he works with, the stuff he's into, this guy is going to bring you some stuff which is going to blow your minds. He's a peak performance coach, author of 2 books, one about marriage, one about healing. You're going to find out why now he's able to diversify into different arenas, and also he's got a new book on leadership coming out. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Dude, great to be here with you. Look forward to our conversation today.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited. So, Jeff, let's get straight into it. How have you ended up doing what you're doing, working with executives, working with CEOs? Tell us about your journey, what you went through, and kind of what your angle is.
Well, I'm a former athlete that got into Wall Street, and I spent 24 years in a variety of capacities, from a financial advisor to coaching and training financial advisors to running branches of financial advisors. And then I moved up to a regional team development leader. And I'd go around resolving interpersonal conflicts with teams. And those skills became really important because when I got divorced 23 years ago or so. And as a result of that divorce, I remarried and was struggling with my wife. But that divorce was a driver for me to figure out relationships. And the skills I learned resolving interpersonal conflicts with these type A personalities were extremely useful in my own marriage. And so I began these massive experiments, and those massive experiments led me to eventually write a book. I'm a curious guy about what's going to work, what works now, what works effectively. I went through traditional couples counseling many, many years ago, and it was really kind of a recipe for failure. It was the catalyst for my divorce back then, and I thought there has to be a better way. So I take this business approach to the world of relationships, and it seems to work quite well. Nice.
So what was the kind of you were going through counseling and you thought, okay, this is what really kind of made you think there's got to be a better way? Did someone initiate it? Did you read a book? Because obviously that's quite an audacious thing. Or you were looking at it from a business perspective and thought, well, in business we would go about it in this strategic way, and right now it's nothing like that. What was kind of like the inspiration for that?
It was more exasperation and frustration with the couples counselor not even understanding how to go after the real issues in the relationship. It was more about finger pointing, my version, her version, and basically the counselor suggested we get a divorce. And I was flabbergasted by that. I just couldn't imagine there wasn't more to the process, digging into what's really going on. And anyway, my mindset around that is, and my understanding is, that we mostly model what we see in our parents for relationships. And so my dad left when I was 14. So how was I going to figure out how to sustain love and passion for a lifetime if it wasn't modeled for me? If I didn't learn it somewhere, I was going to struggle, or I was going to get lucky and get it right. Most people struggle. And here in the United States, we have over 2.3 million divorces a year. But we have 50,000 plus traditional couples counselors, over 230,000 therapists. In my opinion, that's an antiquated model of problem solving. It doesn't get right to the real issues that exist between the two people.
So after you wrote the book, then Jeff, what happened after that, and how did your career take kind of shape?
Well, I left the world of Wall Street when my wife was pregnant with our son, who's now going to be 11. And so the world of coaching was an easy transition for me because I had been coaching and training people anyway. I'd been problem solving at very high levels with executives and different business professionals. And so I started working with business professionals and executives and found out that these stressors in the workplace were often an expansion of a stressor at home. So I started fixing the stressors at home, and then I said, I better write a book so everybody can know. Because to me, once I figured this out, and I went through, I had a light bulb moment. I I realized that some of the strategies I was using with these executives of resolving team conflicts could be implemented in my own relationship. And so that began years of crazy, silly experimentation with my wife to see now, right? And anyway, I continued that process. I've been working with couples for about 10 years. I still have not had a couple divorce. My process works really well as long as, right, this is the kind of the key, as long as one person is absolutely committed and the other person is at least open. They're not done, they're not finished, they're not out of there. And so the process works well.
So when you're working, so at the moment you get CEOs, executives, business owners approaching you and they're saying, hey, look, my business isn't working the way it should be, or my relationship, like what's kind of the usual reason why they approach you before you actually say, hey, maybe it's your home life?
Well, usually there's a dissatisfaction with life.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
The dissatisfaction with life presents itself in a whole host of ways. A dissatisfaction with the relationship, an unhappiness there, or a dissatisfaction with what's my life about. I may be making a great deal of money. I may have this great position with this Fortune 500 company, but I am empty inside. And if we are not whole as people, we bring that emptiness into the relationship. Right? So two empty people are not going to work out very well. Two people who are not whole and complete, even people who are whole and complete, with themselves, love themselves, accept themselves, all that stuff. If they do, the relationship can still struggle because we need skills. We need to know what works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do. And that's the world that I dive deeply in. What works now? What are the things that people are doing today, if they're honest, that's beginning to sever the connection between them?
And what's the number one thing, Jeff, in what you've experienced that people aren't asking themselves in those situations?
The thing in regards to relationships, my biggest thing is that nothing can be fixed in the relationship unless you restore connection. People think it's communication, walking on eggshells around each other. The couples are struggling to understand each other. It could be the littlest thing, the biggest thing. That will never get fixed working on communicating. It only gets fixed when you feel connected. And early on in people's relationships, there was this high level of connection. The sexual chemistry is off the charts, and people kind of grunt and groan at each other and really understand each other. Want to go to dinner? Right? And so if that connection is not restored, nothing happens. Nobody wants to communicate with somebody that they feel disconnected from. Nobody wants to resolve conflicts with somebody they feel disconnected. Nobody wants to create alignment about life values, what's important, what's not important, who does this, who does roles and responsibilities, unless they feel connected.
And how give us some steps. How might, say someone's listening right now, which I'm sure many of you, business owners, entrepreneurs, I know myself in the past, I spent way too much time on my business and kept questioning, how come my relationships keep failing? What are some of the steps people can start to kind of, ask of themselves and maybe start to implement that can get them reconnected with their partner? Because obviously, there might be hurt there. You're in your ego and you're kind of like, yeah, but I'm waiting for them to make the approach. What's some of the things people can do?
So you said something very well. They're waiting for the other person. So if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a professional in some way, then you know that your business is not going to stay the same if you do nothing. By itself, it is going to decline unless you exert effort to just sustain it. It needs more effort to elevate it, right? So we think, get married, the relationship takes care of itself. That's nonsense. It will decline all by itself without effort. So you have to understand that. And as a former business person, I totally got that. I didn't have a vision for my relationship. I just thought, we're married, everything will be good. What do I want my life to be like with this person? What do I want to feel like when I'm with them, when I'm around them? What do I want the environment to be like? What do I want the passion, the intimacy to be like long term? And what am I willing to do about that? Those are some of the big factors that come into the play really early on.
And as things develop, let's let's just say as well, you know how, especially when you're like scaling your business, and especially in the first 3 years of a business, how can someone find balance in their life so that they actually, give the time or give the attention to that relationship so that it doesn't fizzle out?
So that's a great question. My opinion is that the relationship has to have some level of priority in your life. Does that mean 20 seconds a day? Does that mean 2 minutes? What does that actually mean? And what that willingness to do what's necessary can only come from one place, what you want to have, right? So this clarity of vision, the clarity of vision in a business, the clarity of vision for retirement, the clarity of vision for kids' education, the clarity of vision about vacation, where you want to go, right? Everything has to start with this clarity. And without that, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to get caught up in the day-to-day stressors of life. And then there's this thing that happens that I call benign neglect. We don't mean to neglect our partners. We don't mean to put everything else first. We don't mean to put our relationship on the back burner. But we did. I did. And until we make the relationship a priority, it will not get the attention that it deserves from us.
So it's an interesting thing you just mentioned there, Jeff, was the clarity of vision. Is just having your visions in alignment, is that enough? Or do your value, because what fascinates me is when you said in 10 years you haven't had a relationship fail. If someone's got different love languages, someone's got different values, someone's got a different upbringing, background, culture, is just having the vision in alignment enough?
No, you got to know what to do and what not to do, right? Those are the most important things of all, because if you don't know what works with the opposite sex or even same sex, right? Same-sex relationships, if you don't know what works, you're going to make mistakes. So how are you going to learn what works? You can read, there's a plethora of books out there. There's an incredible amount of books and material and people out there who can teach you about relationships. My approach is a little bit unique, and in that, I seem to understand the drivers in the relationship. And so if we understand the drivers in the relationship, what is my driver? What is my wife's driver? What is it that we want from each other? If we understand what we want from each other, and we're willing, right? We're willing to give that. Why would I? Why would I be willing to give that? Right? I got to have a darn good reason why I'm going to do that. It can't be what I'm going to get. It has to come from what I believe is a compelling vision. And a compelling vision is what saved my marriage. So let me tell you that story. Many years ago, my wife and I were in what I call an escalating disagreement. She said something, I said something back, and she accused me of having a tone. Me? A tone? I don't use tones. So now I'm defending my no tone. And so she's escalating, I'm escalating, she's yelling, I'm yelling. And I had this moment of clarity that's like, if I don't do something, this could be the end. Is a marriage that fragile? It had been like 2 years or 3 years together. And I just couldn't believe it could be that fragile. And I thought, vision, right? Why am I with her? Why do I love her? What do I want our life to be like together? And I immediately said, I love you so much. I don't want to argue anymore. Did she escalate further? Of course not. She softened, and the thing was over. And so I understood in that moment that I had so much control over every aspect of my relationship if I chose to do something about it, if I chose to step up and initiate the repair.
Nice. So a bit of a curveball question here, Jeff, but I'm sure it will kind of come back around. So your second book, The Accelerated Healing of Chronic Illness. So how could you be writing about marriages, writing about chronic illness? How does it all interplay? So I'm sure the guys listening might be shouting at me right now and be like, of course, Duke, this. But just give us some insight as how it kind of interrelates and you can still kind of put the ethos on things. So I only write about the problems I've overcome.
And I had 8 years of undiagnosed Lyme disease. I traveled all over the United States seeing some of the top people. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I went from being in phenomenal athletic shape to overnight not being able to walk more than 50 feet,
Yeah.
and tremendous neurological issues. Anyway, that journey led me to write this book on chronic healing of chronic illness. And I've worked with a lot of people with a variety of illnesses. So I have this curiosity about life. This is kind of the common factor in everything that I do. I'm curious about what's going to work now. I left the medical community to heal myself. I decided to take personal responsibility for my health. And I accelerated my healing. I healed myself from chronic Lyme without doctors, without any help other than me. And I did the same thing in my marriage. I fixed my marriage by myself because I just had this curiosity, what would work? And I was willing to try anything, literally. And in the book of leadership, I believe that every aspect of life is leadership. Who am I as a leader? Am I willing to lead myself first? And what does that even mean? What does that look like if I'm willing to be my own leader? Who am I as a man? What's my role? We could really get into some, fascinating tangents off of these things, but curiosity is the common factor, and dealing with my own struggles of life and overcoming them.
So is it that because a lot of guys listen to this show, I know they're just like me, and this is why I'm loving this conversation, Jeff, because I can tell we're very similar experiences. I've misdiagnosis, all this kind of stuff, and you just have this gut feeling that there's a better way. So on that note, you've worked with top and high-end earners. You've worked with people in their marriages. You've written books on different topics. And this is totally going in a different direction now, but I think it serves people. What's some things people can do? Like, what's some advice you can give if someone's got an aspect of their life not working? What can they start to do to unearth and really get to the truth of what's actually happening, as opposed to what they've been told or what they assume or what they feel that should be happening?
So there's so many things that are important, but this is something that I think is essential to changing any aspect of your life. Are you willing to shine the spotlight of truth on yourself? And I'm willing to do that. If I dig into the layers of my life and truly, honestly, brutally honestly dig into the layers of my life, what am I going to find? Am I going to find relationship dysfunction? Am I going to find ill health? Am I going to find I'm out of shape? Am I going to find that I'm lazy? Am I going to find I procrastinate? What is the truth? What's the blunt truth? And so I have a willingness to do that and evaluate my life based on what I find. So in the world of relationships, I took full responsibility. I had this mindset about, I'm going to own every aspect of my life. I'm going to own my marriage. I'm going to own my health. I'm going to own myself. I'm going to own myself as a dad, as a spouse, as a role model. I'm going to own myself as a leader, right? So everything has to start with me. I'm not looking for my wife to do anything in the relationship at all. I'm looking to do my part, and if I do my part effectively, I'll get back everything I want. And if I did my part effectively, fully, completely to heal myself, I would. So I believe there's these levels of thought dominance. And the first one is hope, right? I hope my marriage is going to get better. I hope my health is going to improve. I hope my business is going to work. To me, that's an intangible thing that has no solid foundation. There's nothing to hold on to with that. And in the world of health, you will not heal yourself based on hope. And then the second level is, I think I can heal myself. I think I can turn my marriage around. I think and believe the same kind of thing. I believe I can get my business going. I think I can do it. That's better than hope. The third level, though, is to know. I know I can turn my marriage around. I know I can heal myself. I know I can get my business to where I want it to be. I know. So let's contrast these for a second. I hope the sun comes up tomorrow. I think the sun's going to come up tomorrow. I believe the sun will come up tomorrow. I know the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Which one feels more solid? So I knew I could heal myself. I knew I could turn my relationship around. I knew that inside of me. And anybody who's listening, anything that you've done successfully, you had this feeling of knowingness inside of you. And that's the thing to tap into. And if you don't know for a fact, you have to know that it's possible. If it was possible for me, it is absolutely possible for anybody. So know that it's possible if somebody else did it. And it's possible for you too. Why would it not be? It is possible. But you have to know that first.
And when you're working with people, do they ever get to that place where they're just like, Jeff, no matter how much you tell me this, I still can't believe this. What can you do in those situations?
So I work in people's unconscious worlds a little bit. You know, we all have this archive and this stored stuff that play in the background. You know, this massive whiteboard of this person said this, I heard this about me, you can't do it, you're not good enough, right? All this nonsense in the background at chatter, right? That's the stuff that's got to be wiped clean. And that begins by self-honesty. It also begins by deciding you're going to like yourself a hell of a lot more than you do. And that you've got to understand what that actually means and be willing to work on loving, liking, accepting yourself. We're going to go into the world of ambiguity a little bit, because I had this other thought. If I loved myself fully and completely and unconditionally, my illness would go away. So that's what I did. If I love myself fully, completely, unconditionally, I'll kick myself in the ass when I need it. It's not just about softness. Love is about telling the blunt truth sometimes. Love is about saying, hey, get it done, right? Don't I deserve it? Don't you love yourself enough to go get that job done, right? So there's a hard line to love too.
And is this just practice then, Jeff? Like constantly kind of checking in, like when you're doing something, like what am I doing here, and why am I doing it, and am I being honest with myself? Am I showing myself compassion? Like what and is it mental work? Is it emotional work, or what kind of stuff is it?
Well, it comes off of. We can get into a lot of things, but I don't know that we have interest of time. I'm going to show you a couple of quick things though that people can do while we're in. But I want to go back to the beginning, which is I got to know who I am as a man. What does that mean to me? And the very first thing I say to the men that I work with is, tell me about what it means to be a man. And you can imagine what I hear. I hear, I don't know. Or I hear a couple of things and then silence. We seem to have forgotten what it means to be a man. And I say the same thing to women as well. Who are you as a woman? How do you see yourself as a woman? What does that mean for you? And then, who am I as a dad? Who am I as a spouse, a husband? Who am I? I have to be totally clear about who I am, because I have this belief. When I know who I am, I know what to do. And as I evolve myself, the things to do become more direct, more focused, more effective.
You're basically
filtering myself. Excuse me?
You're basically filtering, so you can see things a lot clearer because you have a stake in the ground. You know what you're looking for. You know where you're coming from.
That's exactly right. So my whole life comes from who I am. Everything that I do is generated by how I see myself as a man.
Okay, I love it. So Jeff, I'm going to chuck you a bit of an unkind curveball question, but yeah. I know you'll be able to handle it. What's the one piece of advice you give that you wish you could do more of? The one piece of advice I give that I wish I would do more of, I'm going to answer that two ways. Mm-hmm. The first thing is that I want people to understand that change is not an intellectual process. It's not going to happen because you say, oh, Jeff, I get it. In fact, I believe that I get it is a recipe for failure. I get it. Did you do it? No, but I get it, Jeff.
I only care about what people do. What they did, what they do, and what they're going to do. I don't care if they get it. I had this conversation with a number of people about the intellect is not going to get the job done. It's to be able to embrace an emotion within you, right? To find that hunger, that drive. What's going to feed that? What's going to create the leverage within you where something becomes meaningful? And if you don't have a compelling vision about something you want to achieve, change, do, or accomplish, if you don't know what you want, how are you going to create motivation? You can push yourself, and people do push themselves, and that creates burnout. I want to be pulled towards something that I truly want in my life. And so all these things, from my health to my relationship to my work to being a leader, all those things are a pull for me so that I don't feel stressed when I have to work really hard at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I love it.
And the other thing that you mentioned, the other piece of that would be the things that I'd like to do more of is truly experimentation. I've worked with these large groups and done healing experiments on chronic pain, mindset shifts, and because I'm a creative thinker about what's going to work, I like to test things out, and I've got all kinds of things I want to test out in a bigger scale.
Awesome. And just on that note, Jeff, really early on in the conversation, you mentioned a type A personality, okay? So what are some of the, apart from checking out your stuff and getting involved with some of the things you're doing, are there some kind of initiations people can do in terms of what courses or books, they'll kind of open their mind up as to how to go about things?
Well, there's no shortage of books out there. I think there's some really good people out there, from Tony Robbins to the world of neurolinguistic programming to Joe Dispenza's work, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. There's a host of really great people out there, but this is a level that I believe that ultimately we want to be able to rely on our own wisdom. And how am I going to tap into my own wisdom if I don't believe I have it, if I don't know I have it, or if I don't know how to go about doing that? So for me, meditation has allowed me to tap into my own wisdom, but my meditation is 15 minutes. And so my inner world is the place where all my outer world problems get solved. They don't get solved because I read a book. They get solved when I know what to do based on who I am. And so the more clear, this goes right back, right? The more clear, the wisdom that you have will far surpass my own. For you, what do I need to do with my life? You have that wisdom, but we have this inner knowing, and our heads get exercised too much, and we lose touch with that intuition, that inner wisdom that we have within us. There's a guy by the name of Dr. Richard Miller, and he was one of the early trainers of the Navy SEALs here in the States, and Navy SEALs are one of the elite armed forces groups here in the U.S. Anyway, he taught them how to tap into their gut instincts, because decisions on the battlefield, life, death, go here, go there, or they're really costly mistakes. Instead of thinking about and intellectualizing decisions, he got them to tap into this gut instinct, gut wisdom, inner knowingness, and the decision making went off the charts with how accurate and precise these decisions were. And so that's how I healed myself, from understanding my own world, what was needed, tapping into my inner knowingness, tapping into my wisdom inside of me, knowing that, this is going to work, getting the ideas that come out of nowhere.
Awesome. And I'm 100%, for everyone who listens to the show, that's 100%. My business partner even takes the piss out of me a little bit. That every time I get something, I'm like, my gut. But it's definitely, like you said, things really get clear and open up when you stop looking outside. So on that note, Jeff, what is your vision? What are you kind of, is there a legacy you want to leave? Is there a particular mission? Obviously, you've got the book coming out soon. What is it you're kind of, being pulled towards at the moment?
That's a big question. I am pulled only to share every bit of knowledge that I get. So whatever I get from my inner world, I am sharing with the outer world, right? And that's truly my mission. But it is a legacy kind of thing, right? Because I am driven by what am I going to leave behind, right? Am I going to know all this stuff for nothing? To die with it? What am I going to do with it? So I want to get it out as much as I possibly can. And that's a huge driver for me. Because frankly, I've suffered a lot in my life. I've screwed up a lot. I've made countless mistakes. You don't get any wisdom without messing up badly. And that's me. So if I can help ease somebody's suffering or give somebody a distinction or an insight that helps them become more successful or healthy or the relationship they want or become a better leader, more effective at influencing people, all those things matter.
Let's talk about the book, Jeff. What inspired you to write this book? Why did you decide to write another book? And what are you hoping to achieve by getting this out there?
Well, because I work with so many business professionals and so many executives, particularly in the corporate world, there is a vacuum of leadership out there. Leadership is not a position. Leadership has to evolve. People have to become more important. The investment in people in today's corporate world in America is just horrific. There's this disconnect between what's going on and what people think is going on. There's this disconnect between the elite levels of management and the mid-layer, and then between the mid-layer and the lower layer, and then between the lower layer and the worker bees. Right? There's these disconnects, and people stay in their own little layers, not caring so much about anything else going on around them. There's a self-focus. And as a result of that self-focus, the turnover and the unhappiness and the stress levels in the workplace are off the charts. So my opinion is that leadership must evolve. And it has to evolve from a perspective of making the worker just as important as the manager. Right? The workers have to become an integral part in the equation and feel like they're part of it. And they don't today.
And with this book, what can people expect from this book? When is it out?
They can expect the blunt to the point stuff I don't know when it's going to be done. It should be out certainly within the next 3 months, but it should be out reasonably soon, certainly within the next 3 months.
Okay, nice. And just to wrap up now, for the people listening, obviously you've talked about being honest with yourself and making the decision of what you're going to do and liking yourself more, working on loving, liking, accepting. What can you give some people now? Some kind of like actionable things, maybe some daily rituals, just to kind of get them into that process to really start accessing that.
Oh, so thank you. You reminded me I need to show you something.
Okay, awesome.
Do this little exercise. So I have this idea that our bodies are about 60% water, right? We're born at about 75% water, and as we age, it goes down 60, 65, somewhere in that time, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, to somewhere in the 60-ish plus. Anyway, so this is what I would ask everybody to do. So imagine that your mind could show you an image of your water. What might that look like? So if I say to my mind, show me an image of my water, a lake might appear, a stream, a pond, a waterfall, an ocean. This is an access point to your inner world. I'm going to show you how that works. So Duke, ask your mind to show you an image of your water, a representation.
Do you want me to close my eyes?
No. You don't. What's the first thing that pops up?
The first thing before you asked again, I just saw my body but as like transparent glass, almost like a fish tank with the water in it.
Very cool. Do you see anything about the water? Is it clear? Is it wavy? What do you notice about the water? Just be curious about it.
There's around here, there's like 2 or 3 little dots.
Okay, very good. So I want you to now say to your water in your mind, just be curious about your water, right? Just be curious. What happens? Does something happen? Nothing happen? Everything that is not mine is free to go. Thank you for being there for me. Does anything happen?
Yeah, I see the image of it flushing out.
So this is how I healed myself from Lyme disease.
I love it.
One of the access points.
Yeah.
This is how you increase your self-love. This is how you change your unconscious world. This is one of the access points that I talk about in my healing book. There are more. The water is a carrier. We know from the world of quantum physics and research and science, we know that water is a carrier of information and memory. So to me, it was, what's in my water? Is that thing that my teacher said? Is that thing that happened when I was 6? Is that what's in my water? Is it still there? Do I need to get rid of it? And how do I get rid of it? So you could begin to say to your water, hey, how's it going? I just want you to know I thank you so much for being there for me. I appreciate you. And that's how the conversation begins, and it goes from there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That is just, I do similar things with some of my one-to-one clients and things like that, but that is just an amazing twist that I've never heard in that way. I absolutely love it. I'm definitely, I knew when we started chatting, I'd be inspired to check out something I hadn't, I didn't know that I didn't know, which is always the thing that excites me more than anything,
Right. And that's the thing that drives me, is because when I figure these things out, I realize, oh my God, I don't know anything. There's so much to know, so much to learn, and it just excites me. It truly excites me to be able to discover the next layer, the level, the depth, the expansion of something. Because we are only limited by what we know and what we don't know.
Yeah.
And if I'm willing, right, if I'm willing to test and play and figure things out, then things will come to me.
Amazing. Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone who has listened, I'm sure you got something from that. A lot of meandering language around topics you've heard before, but put it in a different way, because I know I'm struggling to keep my excitement down and not talk too fast, because I'm excited and I just love all those different angles. I love everything Jeff's saying because it's so in alignment with what we talk about on the show often. Guys, question everything, and those questions, Jeff in particular, asking yourself, be honest with yourself, check in, decide to like yourself more, love yourself more, accept yourself, and even those questions around, who am I as a dad? Who am I as a business partner? Who am I as a spouse? All those kind of things are going to get you closer to who you really are, and from that point, like Jeff was saying, you can kind of know yourself, and as a result, start to make better changes and better decisions and better choices. So, Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can they find out more? Websites, social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me, Jeff, at peakresultscoaching.com. My books are listed there. The first book is called The 90-Minute Marriage Miracle.
Yeah.
If somebody wants that, that's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. The second book is called The Accelerated Healing of Chronic Illness. And the third book is called Leadership Rising, and that's not out yet. But the website is Jeff at peakresultscoaching.com.
Awesome. Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for being on the show.
This was awesome talking to you. I really enjoyed it and look forward to another one.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate your time. Everyone, this is the Brand New You Show. Keep questioning yourselves. Keep questioning anything and get closer to who you really are. I look forward to seeing you on another episode. We'll see you all soon.
Again, curiosity. I wanted to see if I could get them to lose weight without talking about diet or exercise.
Yeah.
On average, they lost about 23 pounds in that month.
Yeah.
I taught them how to love themselves. That's it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And the universe has been slapping around the face with the signs, because I created in my free group, I thought, okay, let me give them some steps. And I gave them the 7 steps, and it was like water stuff. So, like setting the intention over the water, connecting with your body, releasing, all that kind of stuff. Sleep, values.
Oh, wait, you got to hang on for a second. What's the intention with the water?
No, so for example, like when they're drinking the water, like it's just autopilot now. So as I drink it, I'm like, I love you, water. Thank you for cleansing my body.
Oh my God! All right, that's cool. That is so cool. All right, so anyway, that is all part of my own stuff. Yeah, that is so cool.
So so I gave them like sleep parameters, water, values, exercise, nutrition. But the one that gave the biggest shift, we did 4 or 5 videos on self-love. And it was just like
awesome.
It's just and that when I look at people who turned up to the workshop, the people in the group, that's it. At the end of the day, I'm a perpetual student. I'm just perpetually into growth. That's who I attract, and I now just I just need to purvey that in the message that I get out there. So this podcast is so in keeping with that. So it's awesome.
No, that's actually fascinating to me because. We really have a lot of stuff in common. Yeah, that's very cool.
For me, it's just,
I love that.
Even a client I saw just before I came here, she runs workshops and she does leadership stuff and everything else. And, she's done Landmark and all that other stuff. But, I said, okay, it's the first session. So we started just going through values. And as we're going through values, so what like my thing, I guess you want to call it. Yes, I see things and all that kind of stuff. But my thing, which makes it easy for me, is while we're going through the values, it was I can't remember what the question was. It was around who inspires you, and she said Wayne Dyer, and as soon as I said, why Wayne Dyer, and she talked about the things that she loves about him. So basically, what I can do is I feel the emotion. So basically, I feel the emotion that the person made at whatever age. So let's just say someone was abused at 3 years of age.
Yep.
When I'm talking to them, I'll feel the emotion that they felt when they were 3. And then I know I'm on the right track. So basically, when she started talking about Wayne Dyer, and she was saying why she loved Wayne Dyer, I could feel that I felt like I wanted to burst into tears. She didn't feel anything, but I felt like I wanted to burst into tears. So I said, okay, we'll come back to that. Then once we'd finished the values exercise and I showed her that what she was doing in business, she was never going to be able to lose weight and never going to be able to show up a certain way because it wasn't in alignment, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, cool. For now, though, can we just talk about judgment? If you could feel judgment in your body, where would you feel it? And next thing you know, she was abused when she was 13. He shows up. We release it. She's looking bright and happy and whatever else. Do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of that's where my passion is. Working with those caliber of people. And then all of a sudden she's just like, wow, I thought I dealt with that stuff. I'm like, well, it wouldn't have shown up otherwise. And then she's like, now I can see, that I was holding on to all this stuff because basically her abuser used to criticize her and say how fat and ugly she was and everything else. And I'm like, well, of course, you're not going to lose the weight when you've got that decision there, So yeah, so that's kind of like the kind of stuff I do with one-to-one clients. But it's always just been, I always just gave people what they want and did that behind the scenes. Now I need to start talking about that openly out there,
Yeah, that is actually one of the reasons I wrote this book is because my journey is accelerated kind of like yours. I was doing really kind of executive coaching and I almost want to say some life coaching stuff and then the relationship stuff. And then I got bit by a tick last August. And I wasn't going to write the book on healing myself. I didn't want to visit that 8 years of, suffering. And, but the world had other plans for me. So I got bit by a tick and I start this downward spiral. I am pissed. I am so pissed off that I say, people have to know this stuff. People have to know. Yeah. And anyway, through that, you're doing some things that are incredibly similar to me. And, I don't know, maybe there'll be a collaboration at some point because, you've got the ability to be an empath as well as to see things. That's pretty damn powerful.
Yeah, and I think what's happened the last month, because to be honest with you, I've been doing this for about 5 years,
Yeah.
just with people privately and clients. And then it's only really, honestly, Jeff, it's only the last month where all these coaches basically have had people that they couldn't sort out. And I'm talking coaches who are charging like 10 grand a month, you know?
Sure.
And then they've said to me like, Duke, what would you do? And then straight away I've said, okay, well, what it is, her cancer comes from the fact she hasn't forgiven herself for the fact that her sister got abused as well. And then like, what the fuck? And then, you know, they trust you. They've been the ones pushing me going, Duke, this isn't standard. You need to get it out there, you know? So, you know, everything happens in perfect timing, you know? So.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so cool. Yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, Monday will be really good. Yeah, because, yeah, I'm definitely the guy to be asking these questions too.
That's what I said there. For me, you know, I'm always questioning everything. I always have. And when you hit me with a question, like the whole thing of being honest with yourself and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I love this stuff. You know, like anything that could just expand. You know, I just love it.
Yeah. Well, I am excited.
Yeah.
Dude, I really appreciate it, and I am really looking forward to Monday, and hopefully, who knows? Whatever happens.
Yeah, I look forward to it. All right, Jeff, have an awesome day, dude. I much appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
I look forward to speaking to you on Monday.
All right, sir.
Cheers, man.